Things you should never say to us, please. Anime is boring. Anger level 20%. Goku doesn't solo. Anger level, danger level 80%. Your waifus don't exist. Danger level a bunch of percent. Huh. So that's what happens if we say that mean stuff to the weeaboos of our day and generation. Anime sucks, isn't real, your waifu is fake. If they were real, they would never date you. You're probably into them not dating you because you think they're hard to get. You're nothing more than another sex offender on this damn planet. And you're cringe. Your body pillow has more life in it than China, all of it, and stands up straighter than you do. I'm pretty good when I'm tired. Hello everyone, my name is Stonesy Boy, and welcome back to Reading with Stonesy. Today, we are reading page 41 to 60, and last time, my friends, our girl, did a silly, and, threw out the doll, but now the doll is messing with her, so that's a no good. Today, we are going to read 41 to 60, und ja. Delilah had given this a lot of thought. A ton of thought. It was basically all she thought about for days. She decided that Ella was not at all pleased about being tossed out. Maybe being discarded activated some subterranean that turned on new functions in Ella. Hidden functions. Maybe the person who made Ella had a sick sense of humor and thought it would be fun trick to play on someone who had audacity to throw his creation away. Or maybe Ella malfunctioned. Whatever, the bottom line is that Ella is out to get Delilah. Delilah could think of no other explanation for what was happening. But what could she do about it? She stared at the thin barrier between her domain and Mary's. Mary. What if Mary had the doll? Mary's apartment looked out over the dumpsters and she was home all day. What if she saw Delilah throw the doll away and she went out and got it? Delilah had to find out. Starting to get out of bed and knock on Mary's door, Delilah stopped, and it was the middle of the night. Pounding on someone's door in the middle of the night was a good way to start a confrontation. She didn't want to get a confrontation. She didn't want Mary to get defensive and hide Ella. No, she'd have to wait until morning to try to get Mary to give up Ella by playing nice. Mary was singing about penguins when Delilah got out of the shower at 7:30 a.m. Dressing in her exercise clothes because she figured she'd need a run after speaking to Mary, Delilah went into the kitchen and warmed up a slice of peach pie she brought back from the diner the night before. She didn't know much about Mary, but she knew Mary liked pie, especially peach pie. Delilah left her apartment when Mary shifted into a verse about polar bears. When she knocked on Mary's flimsy front door, Mary belted out of line in an iceberg and went in silent. A second later, the door opened. "Miss Delilah! What a surprise!" Mary grinned and reached out to grab Delilah. Delilah barely had time to move the pie to the side before Mary's big arm pulled her to a tight hug. Delilah's nose got buried in Mary's substantial shoulder. Mary smelled like sausages, sweat, and lavender. "Hi, Mary," Delilah said when Mary released her. She followed Mary into a peaceful Japan-inspired oasis at Mary's apartment. First time Delilah had knocked on Mary's door to talk to her about singing. Delilah had been expecting to find a cluttered apartment filled with knickknacks and books. Mary just looked like the kind of woman. About 5'8", well-padded, well-middle-aged front. Mary had parmed gray door and lined fence, and a round tortoiseshell glasses perched in a slightly upturned nose. She wore clothes in layers, vests over shirts, over skirts, over dresses, usually in an unmismatched color hodgepodge. But Mary's apartment looked nothing like Mary. "Please take off your shoes," Mary sang, and Delilah forgot. "Oh, right, sorry." Delilah held the pie in one hand while she balanced one foot when she other to pull off her running shoes. She placed the shoes on the middle rack on the side of the door. When she bowed to Mary when Mary bowed to her. "I bought you peach pie," Delilah held out a warm pie container. Oh, that's just the thing. Mary grabbed the container, bowed to Delilah again, and glided into her pristine kitchen and chopsticks. Delilah didn't know if Mary's decor and lifestyle came from the history with Japanese culture or whether Mary just fancied herself Japanese. She never asked because it felt rude to say, "What's with the Japanese stuff?" But Delilah had read enough to know that she was standing on tatami mat, and a bamboo screen hid the bedroom door that she had been ushered to blue and gray zabuton set up around the chabudai in the far side of the living room. A gnarled bonsai with a blue container sat on the chabudais. Other than the mat, the table, and the Japanese pillows, the living room was bare. As Delilah sat on one of the gray cushions, she began questioning her idea that Mary had taken the doll. What would a strange woman want with a doll? It definitely didn't seem to suit her interior decor. But then, Delilah had never seen Mary's bedroom. What if the door had a collection of dolls in frilly dresses? Mary placed a tea set in the chabudai, along with a plate of almond cookies, the pie container, and chopsticks. Having gone through the ritual before, Delilah let Mary pour the tea and offer her a cookie before she said anything. As Mary deftly scooped up a peach slice with her chopsticks, Delilah said, "I went to a cool garage sale the other day." Mary placed the peach slice in her mouth, closed her eyes, and chewed what looked like sheer joy. When she finished chewing, she leaned forward toward Delilah and waved a chopstick in front of Delilah's face. Second-hand stuff brings second-hand energy. Old hands, bad hands, tainted with story, Mary sang. She waved her chopstick back and forth like a metronome, keeping time in her song's beat. "You don't like second-hand things?" Mary set down the chopsticks, grabbed the collar of her yellow blouse with both hands, pulled the collar from her skin to shake it several times. She sang, "Penguins, penguins, pull in the cold. Polar bears scare away the old." Delilah frowned. She thought she'd figured out the second-hand song, but this new verse baffled her. Mary let go of her collar and picked up a chopstick again. Hot flashes. She broke off a piece of crust and tweezed it between her chopsticks. Delilah sipped tea and asked herself what she was doing here. How was she going to get an answer out of Mary? She better get off knocking out the woman and searching her apartment. Delilah watched Mary eat. Even with the capable of knocking someone out, which he wasn't, Delilah didn't think it would be a good idea to take on Mary. Mary is not only taller and bigger, she's probably knew some kind of martial arts or something. "The past leaves with stains," Mary said. "What? No garage sales, no antique shops, no thrift stores. I don't want to open old doors," Mary intoned. Delilah nodded. She was pretty sure she got that. If Mary didn't like old stuff because she thought old stuff had stains of the past, she wasn't likely to have pulled an old doll from the dumpster. Not unless she had done it and now she was messing with Delilah. Delilah stared into Mary's eyes. Mary stopped eating pie and stared right back. The eyes were pale green, streaked with swirls of yellow, kind of freaky. Delilah blinked and looked away. She stood. "I need to go for a run," Delilah said. "Yeah, I need to finish my pie," Mary said. "Okay, I'm sorry, but I have to go." Sorry, no worry. No, sorry, no, sorry, no, sorry. Just be, Mary sang. Okay, bye, Mary." "Of course." Farewell was more singing. "Bye-bye, so long, ta-ta, toodaloo, until later, alligator." Delilah waved at Mary and fled in a woman's apartment. On the 10th night of the chilling 1:35 a.m. awakenings, Delilah knocked her lamp onto the floor with pure panic to turn it on. Instead, she broke in it, and she, whimpering in fear at the time, got her flashlight from the nightstand drawer and flipped its switch. She was sure the flashlight was going to reveal Ella on the side of her bed that she screamed in the light bright into the room. But nothing was there. Delilah, with icy tendrils scattering all over their body, shot the flashlight beam all over the room. The light quivered as it scanned the darkness because Delilah's hand was shaking. With every new shift of the flashlight's direction, she absolutely expected the light to reveal Ella's face emerging out of the dim. Where had the doll gone? Ella had been here. Delilah was sure of it. What else could have made those soft little footsteps that snatched Delilah from her sleep? Delilah had been dreaming she was lying in a hammock alone. Then she heard footsteps, small and light, pattering closer and closer. She awakened when she reached her. Delilah kept shifting her flashlight's beam, and she was listened. There, the soft steps. She aimed her flashlight at her bedroom door. It was open. Had she left it open? She couldn't remember. She thought she closed it, but she couldn't be sure. She leaned forward to the door and cocked her head, willing her ears to tell her what she was hearing. Were those footsteps in the living room? She heard a click. What was in her front door? Wanting to go look, she also not wanting to go look. Delilah chose to give in to interior. She stayed right there where she was, clutching her flashlight and with one hand and grasping her sheets close to her body with the other. Still listening with every ounce of her being, she thought she heard the sound of the hallway. Was that Mary's door opening and closing? Delilah hesitated another few seconds when she jumped out of the bed, ran to the wall, and turned on the light. She looked around the room. Everything was normal. She turned, opened the bedroom door, the rest of the way, and ran into the living room to turn on that light. Again, everything looked as it would have. Her apartment door was closed and locked and bolted. She was alone. That was the problem, wasn't it? Delilah crossed to her love seat and pulled Harper's afghan around her shoulders. She sat sideways and her legs tucked under her. By the time Delilah had met Harper, she resigned herself to being alone. Sure, she wasn't surrounded by foster kids, but they weren't family. They weren't friends either. To Harper, none of them had loved her, and she didn't love them. None of their foster parents would love her either. No one loved Delilah until Harper came along, and even then, Harper couldn't love her enough. After her parents died, Delilah didn't think she'd ever again be loved the way her parents had loved her, until she met Richard at a Halloween party. She was a senior in high school, and he was a sophomore in college. The gazes locked over an eyeball and blood punch, and they spent the rest of the night dancing. When Richard decided to take a sabbatical from college, she begged Delilah, the love of his life, to come along. She was just 2 weeks away from turning 18, so they waited. And on her birthday, they said goodbye to Harper and the structure-happy Gerald. She headed out to Europe with Richard. It was January, and he took her to the Alps and taught her to ski. For a year and a half, they played all over Europe. Finally, Richard's dad demanded that Richard come home and start working in the family business if he wasn't going to finish college. Richard proposed to Delilah. His parents and sister, with obvious reluctance, welcomed Delilah into the family. They had a fairy tale wedding. Delilah had felt like a princess. When they moved into his parents' great guest house from that point, all they had to do was stick to their plan. Richard would move up in the company. They would have babies. They'd eventually get their own place. They were going to live happily ever after. Instead, Delilah was here alone. Or not alone. She wasn't sure which was worse. Every day at 4:30 p.m., Mary left her apartment to go for her daily constitutional. Even if Mary hadn't explained this to Delilah, she would have known this because Mary sang about it. Delilah had to get through 2 more work days and 2 more terrifying 1:35 a.m. wake-ups before she had a day off and a home at 1:43 p.m. Though both of those nights, Delilah had listened in pit-pat and rat-a-tat sounds that convinced her Ella was retreating into Mary's apartment. After she tormented Delilah, Delilah was convinced that Mary and Ella were no matter what Mary had said about the old saint. So she decided that she was going to break into Mary's apartment and look for the doll. This plan was only possible because working in a diner had some perks. You get to meet a large variety of people with a large variety of skills. One of Delilah's regulars was a private detective, Hank. The night before, Delilah had asked him how hard it was to pick a lock. Depends on the lock, Hank had said, adjusting to vest to one of the 3-piece suits he always wore. Simple apartment door lock, he said. Deadbolt? Delilah had shaken her head. Mary didn't use a deadbolt. She sang aloud about trust and faith. Delilah had thought the detective could have asked her why she wanted to know, but instead he just asked if any of the women in the place had a hairpin, and she had taken one from Mr. Jeffrey, an elderly woman who came in daily for rice pudding. He led Delilah to the door of the restaurant storage room, and in 5 minutes he taught her how to pick a lock. Good thing Nate wasn't around. He wouldn't have had like knowing how easy it was to get into the supplies. So thanks to Hank, it took Delilah only a minute to break into Mary's apartment. Once inside, she had to take another minute to get her breathing under control. Her heart felt like it was hopping around spastically like a hot oil on a flat cooktop. Her legs felt weird, as if they were trying to run away while standing still. Adrenaline, she thought. Clearly, she wasn't cut out to be a spy. she was a mess. And all she had done is go inside the door. Well, why don't you get on with it if you can be done, she asked herself. But she didn't think it was going to take long. Ella wasn't in the living room unless she was invisible. That left the kitchen cabinets, the bedroom, and the bathroom. Delilah forced herself to move. She was suspected Mary's kitchen cabinets were partially filled with neatly organized. Ella was not hiding among the stoneware or inside Mary's wok, nor was she in the refrigerator and the freezer. The bathroom was similarly near empty. Just to be sure, Delilah checked the toilet tank. Not only was it empty of hidden items, it was unusually clean. Delilah moved to the bathroom. Here that she met her first challenge. Mary's bedroom was filled with storage bins, stacks and stacks of black plastic storage bins. They lined every wall in pairing of two, each made up Mary's nightstands. Other than the storage bins, all that Mary's bedroom held was a futon and a pillow, both lying on the floor. Delilah checked her watch. She was about 40 minutes before Mary would be back. She wanted to be gone in 30 or less. To be safe, she started opening bins. Delilah discovered a lot about Mary in the next 35 minutes. She learned that Mary was at some point a teacher, and that she was a widow, and that she was made or had once had beaded jewelry, and she loved musicals, and that she come from a family with 3 kids, and that she once had a Chewlet of her own who had died in a fire. Oh, a child of her own. I don't know what I thought a Chewlet is. Delilah figured that gave Mary the right to be a little weird. Mary had a laptop which she apparently used to watch her movies, and she had an old manual typewriter. Mary typed up her songs. They filled 7 of the 53 bins in the room. Delilah was moving too fast. She was dripping with sweat in the first clean bins, 11 bins. Looked in every bin. L was not in any of them. Giving up and thought ahead of the door, Delilah backtracked and nearly poked in the futon and the pillow. They were only places left that Ella would be hiding. No Ella. Delilah looked around to be sure to recycle the bins neatly. She hoped that she put them in the right order. Even if she hadn't, she had to leave. Now she'd gone well past the margin for safety. She barely made it back to her apartment in time. Right after she closed the roll of the door, she heard Mary's singing voice calling, blood-flowing, heart-pumping, healthy, happy sing. Delilah leaned against the door and then slid to the floor. She was depleted and baffled. If Mary didn't have Ella, who did? And why wouldn't Ella leave her alone? On the 13th night of Delilah's sleep invasion hell, Delilah heard an actual alarm at 1:35 a.m. It was so loud that she dreamed she was being attacked by a huge bee. She was running from the bee when she opened her eyes and reached the lamps she thought at the storage rail. This lamp was metal with LED bulbs, which wouldn't break. Delilah might, though. The night before, Delilah had wondered, without much expectation at all, if she'd been able to live through the 12 nights of Ella. Maybe it wouldn't just stop, because Delilah couldn't know sure why it had started. It could just stop, right? Wrong. It wasn't stopping. In fact, now Delilah could still hear a buzzing in her ears, like a high-pitched whirring sound. She was actually hearing that, or was that something wrong with her ears? What that tinnitus sound like? She heard about tinnitus and run an old man who congregated in the diner daily, who grasped about the state of their bodies and the state of the world in general. He had his ears ring all the time. Delilah wasn't hearing a ringing. It was a nothing. It had stopped. Delilah turned over and put her face in her pillow. Why wouldn't Ella leave her alone? And where was she? If Delilah could destroy Ella, it would stop. But she couldn't destroy what she couldn't find. The day after she searched Mary's place, Delilah had started wondering whether if one of her other neighbors had gotten to the doll in the dumpster. She spent 3 hours knocking on every door in the building, asking if anyone found Ella. Amazingly, only 8 doors had gone unanswered. Everyone she spoke to had learned genuinely clueless about finding a doll. The next day and the next, she'd gotten to the rest of the building's inhabitants and learned the 8th unanswered door belonging to an empty unit. At 1:45 a.m. the next morning, she picked up her lock of the empty apartment and checked for Ella there. No doll. Delilah was beginning to have a problem with that meant beyond being awakened at 1:35 a.m. every night. The thing was that she was about to wake up every night at 1:35 a.m. was being terrorized every night at 1:35 a.m. Every single night, some sound or smell or sensation stole into sleep and wrestled her back into wakefulness. And now, for the first time in her life, she was having trouble sleeping at all. This problem had two prongs. First, she was having trouble getting to sleep at the start of her night. Instead of feeling the stress ooze out of her body when she hit the bed, it always had in the past. She always lays down. Her stress multiplied exponentially. As soon as she had touched the pillow, she had a sense of impending doom. It felt like her heart was pounding around her chest. She began sweating and trembling. Her throat got tight. She alternately felt rigid when screaming hot. In spite of how fast her heart was beating, she couldn't catch her breath. On the second night of this, she was the 15th night of an entire ordeal. Delilah called Harper. "I think I'm going to die," she told her friend. "Talk to me," Harper said. "You have 2 minutes. I'm about to go on." "Oh, sorry. 1 minute, 55 seconds. Talk." Delilah described what she was experiencing. "You're having a panic attack. What's been going on lately? You wouldn't believe me if I told you. Try me, but do it in a minute." I'll give Harper an abbreviated version of 1:30. Sure. "Why are you making such a big deal of it? So you're waking up at the same time every night? Just go back to sleep." "You don't understand. Apparently not. Try again tomorrow." Harper hung up and the stage called. That was that. Left on her own, Delilah looked up the panic attacks on the computer. She discovered a variety of suggestions for dealing with them. Deep breathing, muscle relaxation, developed focus, visualization of a happy place. Delilah focused on the first two, and she managed to fall asleep with only awakened at 1:35 a.m. by the sound of her deadbolt being thrown back. Launching herself from her bed, she bounded through her apartment and stopped her intruder, but no one was intruding. Her deadbolt was secure, and her panic returned. This brought her the second prong of her sleep problem. Ella's nightly intrusions into Delilah's sleep left Delilah feeling violated and petrified. She was literally quivering by the time whether it was the woke her faded into silence. She had to use the same deep breathing and muscle relaxation to go back to sleep, and they seemed to be losing effectiveness. But still Delilah tried. Lying on her back now, she counted her breaths in and out. She was up to 254 before she started feeling a little drowsy. Somewhere around 273, she finally went back to sleep. "So you think this doll is, what, haunting you?" Harper asked. She sipped on her espresso and flipped around her long, high ponytail, which went well with the fitness-style, full-skirted floral dress that she had on today. "No, not haunted," Delilah said. "She's not a ghost, and she's not possessed or whatever. She's technology. I think she's got defective programming." "And she's what, invisible? Got the keys to your deadbolt? Able to walk through the walls?" Harper threw her hands in a multitude of bracelets around her thin wrists jangled. "I mean, there's technology and then there's magic. What are you talking about goes a little beyond technology, don't you think? Especially for an old doll." Delilah frowned and shook her head and infuriated her that Harper was bringing up the very points that Delilah was hung up on herself. Her theory didn't make sense, but what other theory was out there? "Have you looked into the meaning of number itself?" Harper asked. She looked over the counter and winked at a cute guy ordering a latte. Returning her attention to Delilah, she said, "Maybe your subconsciousness is trying to tell you something." "You mean like the 333 thing?" Harper shrugged. Every number was a meaning, as resonance. Uh-huh. For as long as Delilah had known Harper, she'd been a little out there. "But I'm a rigid-brained free spirit," Harper said, and the first time Delilah had laughed at one of Harper's spiritual flights of fancy. "Deal with it." "I'm not kidding. Let's see. Harper pulled on her phone in her pocket and tapped it a few times. "Okay, here it is. Oh, hey, this is interesting." She looked up. "I don't care," Delilah said. "I don't want to know. I don't believe in that stuff anyway." Harper shrugged. "Whatever. It's your funeral." That night, deep breathing didn't help. Delilah got sleep after an hour of lying in her bed. Exhausted but still too panicked to sleep, she sat up, grabbed her pillow and her comforter, and went out to her living room. There she was curled up on a sofa, tucked in the comforter around her, and asleep in a few more deep breaths. She was asleep and something hot started crawling at the ceiling above her. Delilah's eyes sprung open and she clawed for her flashlight, pushed a button, and aimed for the ceiling. Out of full expectancy, Ella clinging on the ceiling overhead. She even see her fingernails rasping against the drywall. But nothing was there, nothing at all. Delilah shined the flashlight all around her in the ceiling. and she was listened. Stiffening and pointing her flashlight in the corner of the ceiling, where it sounded like something was scrabbling toward the wall. Delilah sprinted, as if doing it would help her see through the pocket structures of her apartment. Of course, squinting didn't help, and neither did sleeping on the sofa. The sofa didn't keep Ella from tugging Delilah from sleep at 1:35 a.m. the next night either. But it did seem to help Delilah get back to sleep. It was only after the strange snicking sound retreated into the kitchen that Delilah was able to slow her breathing enough to find sleep again. The next night, though, the sofa had nothing to offer her. First, it took her just as long to get to sleep on the sofa as it did on the bed. Second, the sofa couldn't soothe her after she felt a light touch on her shoulder at 1:35 a.m. This time, Delilah was awake and she didn't have to turn on the light. When she woke up, she just never turned on the lights out. The fact that Delilah didn't see Ella was as soon as Delilah opened her eyes gave Delilah a clue about just how advanced her nemesis was. Ella could disappear in the blink or in the opening of an eye. Delilah knew Ella had disappeared that fast because of the doll had been there. She had to be there. Something touched Delilah, a touch that only baby soft. Ella soft. Little fingers with a hint of brushes against Delilah's night-skirt-covered shoulder. No more than a hit of contact, but it had been enough to turn Delilah's intestines into a tangled mass of fear and transform her blood into liquid nitrogen. She felt like she was being frozen and broken apart from within. Delilah stood, clenching her comforter and her pillow. She couldn't stay out here in the living room. She looked around the gazelle, searching for a place the lion couldn't search. Her gaze landed on the bathroom door, and she ran to the little room and dove, with her comforter and pillow, into the bathtub, curling into the tightest ball she could manage. She pulled the comforter over her bed. The next night, Delilah started in the bathroom, and still Ella found her. At 1:35 a.m., Delilah heard something creeping through the pipes under the tub. Sure, Ella's hand was going to burst through the porcelain and grab her. Delilah had scrambled out of the tub and into the corner of the bathroom against the door, where she spent the next 4 hours trying to breathe. She didn't even attempt to sleep. At 5:35 a.m., Delilah got dressed and went to the diner. Nate, as she knew he would be, was baking biscuits and cinnamon rolls. "What are you doing here?" he asked when she stepped into the kitchen. "I thought putting you to the same shift all the time had eliminated your time confusion. Now you're showing up your shift that you're not interested in being late for ones you are on." Nate chopped biscuit dough as the neat squares began throwing them into perfectly straight lines into a massive bacon sheet. The diner smelled gloriously ordinary. Coffee aromingly from the scents of buttermilk and cinnamon. The sounds are uncontrollably normal, too. A couple of their early regulars and they're discussing the weather and the countries at the counter. One of the servers was whistling. The refrigerator hummed, and the video ended. 'Cause I need to end the video. We actually read quite quickly today, which is kind of weird. We don't normally read really quickly, but today we did. But that's because I'm tired. But yeah, next episode we are going to read. Let's see. We are going to read 61 to 80. And yeah, I think next episode, as a matter of fact, it's what's it called? Next episode is the final for this one, ain't it? Hold on, let me find out the page. 88. No, it's the one after this one. But yeah. I hope you guys have a super fantastic, wonderful day. Be polite, be efficient. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Hope you guys are enjoying the reading. Once this book is done, I'm going to compile all of the videos together into one big ready. But yeah, I hope you guys have a super fantastic, wonderful day. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.